Your feathers off.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Clap.
We're starting now.
Don't say, you just clap and you don't say anything. You be still for a couple seconds.
Okay, wait a minute.
Jim, I read this article this morning that got me thinking about that concept that we always talk about, kind of the segmenting of worlds. And it was a real interesting story. This guy who's 53, he'd been working for Nike up in Portland for a while. He was in some part of the digital side of it. And he decided at the time of the American elections a year and a half ago, 2016, he decided he was going to do something called the blockade, and he completely cut himself off from all media, news, newspapers, everything, and he moved to Ohio and started a pig farm. And so this article was an example of somebody who really said, that's enough, I don't want to have all this news, international or U.S. news, in my life. And one of the things he discovered, he said, I'm experiencing an emotion that I haven't felt in decades, and it was boredom.
Yeah.
And he said, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking of that separation, couple things, that separation we talk about, and also the idea that boredom might possibly be the transition between what I have to do and what I want to do.
Yeah, that's good observation.
It just got me thinking.
So this space we talk about often about you're starting to shift, segmenting in the kind of two earths, one basically going in a direction different than the other. We have this experience with a lot of the students in Mastering Alchemy. So you start to have the tools to begin to step away from my noise, my emotions, my baggage, that kind of a thing. And often, particularly about halfway through the level 3, year 1, people say, gee, I'm losing my goals, I'm losing my interests, I'm feeling a whole lot better about my state of being, but I'm bored.
Yeah.
And they'll use that word bored. And every time I'll ask the question, well, how is that for you? Virtually every time they say, it's really pretty good.
Yeah, just like this guy.
I kind of like it. So boredom in a way is not a problem necessarily. It is clearly different. It is a space where I'm not engaged with my conscious or unconscious motion.
Or maybe I'm not engaged with something I've always done before.
Yeah. And a lot of that is just unconscious habit.
Yeah.
I do this, I go here, I expect the world to be this way or that way. And in that process, I start to begin to recognize that's noise. Let's even give it positive noise, but it's noise, it's motion, it's leaning into things. And very much it's an unconscious movement through time in a way.
I remember, I don't think I've ever experienced boredom. There's always something I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I remember as a kid, and also parents nowadays, the kids will come up to the parents and say, I'm bored. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Is that that seems like a different kind of boredom.
Well, I think that is different too, because a lot of kids and younger people, and particularly, I think some of these kids that are millennials, maybe in the 20 to 30 range, one of the things that was very prevalent in the 80s, 90s, maybe into early 2000s, is parents wanted to make sure their kids had a great experience. So they took them to soccer, they took them to tennis, they took them to gymnastics, they put them into dance. They basically completely gave them a lot of things to do.
Filled up their lives.
And now, at 20-something years old, they're not having their lives filled up. They're on their own. And when we talk to some of these kids, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to initiate on their own activities. And so that may be kind of a boredom too, but pretty much that's a disconnect from how do I engage. But I think this particular part of boredom that we're talking about is actually really important. We can call it boredom for a label for the purpose of this, but I am disconnecting from a lot of my unconscious and conscious habits. I'm starting to notice myself in terms of how do I observe and then choose. And a lot of people at all ages haven't really chosen before. We move along, we do what we're supposed to, we get our job, we have our 2.3 kids, we live in the house, mothers are supposed to, fathers are supposed to. So when you start to watch this now, people disconnecting from the game, if you would, the disconnect for a lot of people in Mastering Alchemy, particularly a lot of people who are beginning to become conscious of being conscious, they're starting to be aware also of some other set of choices. A lot of times those choices are, I want something different. There's a better or a different way of doing this, but that better, different way is not how they have had their experience to date.
And that boredom period of time is the time where we've let go of our old reference points,
right,
but we haven't found our new reference points.
Yeah.
So it's that period of time where we're kind of empty, or
that's a good word for it too.
Yeah.
We've heard that it's expressed. So empty. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I know what I want to feel, and so
I know what doesn't work for me.
And I know what doesn't work for me, but I don't have a place to go. You know, I find myself sometimes saying, in my reality, I want to have an experience that says, do, accomplish. And I built the house, I built the shed, I did something. And in my reality, even though with tremendous satisfaction and all the work that's being done and watching people shift, sometimes there's a space where it's like, I don't know that I accomplished. I feel disconnected from my sense of either doing or accomplishing. Now, that's not a problem in my reality.
Well, that's different than boredom, too.
Well, but I've been in that space of boredom, and we're talking about, and what I watched as I went into that is I'm in transition. I'm not doing the same things that I used to do. And I think that's this segmentation beginning to formulate, beginning to come into a place. And when you talk to, again, let's use a Mastering Alchemy group, if you say, well, what do you want? A lot of times they say, I don't know, but in the case, because this is part of our scripting, is, well, let's define it as well-being. Would that be something you want? And people go, oh, yeah. And it feels like this, in words like integrity and enjoyment and
ease.
Appreciation and ease. And you run out all those words, and everybody goes, yeah, that's what I want. But if you listen to the words, ease, respect, appreciation, there's not a doing attached to that. There's not I went to the store, had coffee, I watched the football game, I had an experience. There's a shift between emotions into feelings, and feelings, in this case, are lighter and have less attachment to them, less drama to them in some cases. And I think that's what people are defining as boredom. Particularly this guy, he basically said, I'm going to not deal with news and noise.
And he did an interesting thing where he had to tell all his friends, don't talk to me about this. He goes to his coffee shop every day. He has his same coffee. He puts in his earbuds, and he's blocking out all the chatter in the coffee shop. So he's really orchestrated a life.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's not in reactionary avoidance. He's choosing to not be connected to that. So that's a real different place than I'm pushing against. But
well, I think this place of boredom too is when we find ourselves in it, if we can not push against it and just say, well, this is an in-between place. I'm moving toward something bigger, better, satisfying, all those good words, rather than having that experience and being, oh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, and I think the question you start to ask is, what would I like? Now, and expect no answer. That's, I think, really important. Expect no answer. There's no, oh, I want to do this, because that's part of how the scripting has been. So what would you like to feel? How would you like to feel, and where do you experience that feeling? And so in a way, nature comes up for a lot of people. I'd like to go for more walks. I'd like to go for a hike. I'd like to do what, and there are people, many people all over the world that are stepping into this exact space. So what would the world look like if you had engagement in well-being? And how would you live in your own house? What would your house look like? As simple as, could you rearrange the furniture to create a different feeling in the house? Clean your garage, or do something that creates maybe a sense of accomplishment in orderliness. Because orderliness is one of those words that really comes into this place of, I'm aligned, I'm present, here I am. So there is a shift. So if you hit that space of boredom, it's not a problem. It's a transitional phase into something that I would like to accomplish. But as you said, the reference points aren't fully in place yet. And I don't know what this feels like. I don't know how. It's not tangible. It's like wanting a food, and you keep, and I can't find that, but I know it exists.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is an important step, I think, in terms of watching this shifting unfold, and the shifting's accelerating. So the getting disconnected from things is accelerating consciously or unconsciously, and the new reference points are starting to show up.
So enjoy that period of boredom, instead of pushing against it, and know it'll pass.
Yeah, and it will evolve into something else, and it's not a problem.
Not a problem.
So something worth noting.
Yeah, it's good.
Good. This is good conversation.